All right, would you help us out, please, Aditi?
Sure. Buddhistaश्चलितिवात्मा ध्यायतीव च दृश्यते नौगतस्य तथा वृक्षा तद्वत्संसारविभ्रमः. The self seems to be moving when the intellect moves, and it seems to be at rest when it is at rest, on account of its identification with the intellect, like trees appearing to move in the eyes of those who are in a moving boat. Similar is the misconception about transmigratory existence.
So, the Vedas teach, Bhagavad Gita teaches the idea of transmigratory existence. So again, going to our spiritual anthropology, the physical body is born, it lives, it ages, gets sick, and dies. The subtle body, thing you run around in your dream with, is that which collects all its impressions and moves from body to body. But the self, which is the conscious entity, is never really born, does not move, is always safe. But what happens? And here the Sanskrit makes it difficult to translate. Where does the identification take place? Not in the self. It's the subtle intellect that has the confusion, that attributes to the self the qualities of the body and the subtle body. So it seems like I am moving when the intellect moves. I am happy, I am sad, I am afraid, I am depressed, I am all these thoughts and feelings, which are the states of the intellect, but I think they belong to me. And one of the things that so many of us suffer from, we were talking about this before class, is the whole phenomenon of fear. False evidence appearing real. And instead face everything and realize, ultimately, what can we do to free ourselves from fear? Well, at the level of the ego, turn it over to God. In the end, though, what we find out is we're absolutely safe all the time. Nothing touches the self. And he uses this image of you're in a boat, and from the standpoint of the boat, it looks like the trees on the shore are going by. Modern example that I like to use is the MacArthur BART station. So you got 4 trains coming in. And if you are on your BART train and there's another train right next to you, and you start moving, all of a sudden it looks like the train to your side starts going backwards. Is it going backwards? No. You're just accelerating faster than the other train. It's an optical illusion. So also, because of this superimposition, I think when the mind changes and moves, the only way to be free from is to stop, introvert the attentive faculty. Notice yourself. What's there is just the space of pure awareness. Has it been threatened? Is it diminished? But if I forget who I am, then I think I'm the body plus the personality. Any thoughts on this? Next verse.
That book you had me read gives a lot on the transmigrating soul. What was it? Shape of Ancient Thought has lots of detailed conversation about that in the ancient Indian. Yeah.
Next verse.
Nostasya pratilomyena naganam gamanam yatha atmana sansritistasva dhyayati vetihi shrutihi. Just as trees are thought to be moving in a direction opposite to that of a moving boat by a man in it, so transmigratory existence is wrongly thought to belong to the self by a man who has identified himself with the intellect. For there is the passage in the Shruti as if at rest.
So the point is the self is sthita. It is still. It is established. You never go anywhere. And again, there's that intellectual appreciation, the paroksha jnanam, but we need direct experience of paroksha jnana, which means stop, inquire, koham, who am I? Have I become this or that? Am I ever threatened? We need to renounce the stories the mind tells us. This is my history. I have suffered this. I need to watch out for that. I am worried about the future. Again, in our discussion before class this morning, one of the things that I shared, which has always helped me, almost always, fear is about the future. Now, if you're crossing the street and you hear screeching tires and adrenaline rushes through your body, okay, that's present time fear, perhaps. But that's not what drives us wackadoodle. What's going to happen if the stock market crashes? What's going to happen when my savings run out? What's going to happen when I move here or move there? What's going to happen if my partner passes away? What's going to happen if my children get into trouble? None of it's real. False evidence appearing real. Don't believe me? Stop, inquire into yourself, see what's there. Oh, there's a frightened little boy in there. Okay, who sees that? Are you? Then you're not the frightened little child. But all right. Any thoughts? Next verse.
Chaitanya pratibhimbena vyapato bodho hi jayate uddheha shabdadi mirma sastena mohyate jagat. The modifications of the intellect are pervaded by the reflection of consciousness when they come to exist. So the self appears to be identified with sound, etc. This is the reason why people are deluded.
So we have this classic Shankara term, pratibimba. Bimba is a mirror. Pratibimba is the reflection in a mirror. It's a classic image. So if you go into the bathroom and you look into the mirror, if I look into the mirror, I see the face of Jim in the mirror. Fang goes into the bathroom, she sees the face of Fang in the mirror. Does the mirror undergo any change? It is the nature of the mirror simply to reflect. Likewise, we have this fake self, this phony self, this pratibimba, this reflection self. It isn't real. Get another one of Shankara's famous images. You've got half a dozen jars of water and it's evening and the moon is shining down on them. If you look into the jars of water, you see 6 moons. Now, if you take your finger and you go boing into the water, does the moon get broken? No. I'm attributing the quality of the water to the moon. Are there in fact 6 moons? No, there's only 1 moon. There's not myself and yourself. Myself is happy, yourself is sad. No. The water then is the metaphor for the mind. And there's the reflection of consciousness caught in the web of thought, as Swamiji used to say. All it really is false identification. Get out of the mind. Don't believe the mind. It's not you. It's ever before you. It never touches you. Any thoughts on this? Next one.
Chaitanya bhasyata hamstad here cha tadasya yat idam shaprahanena paraso nubhavo bhavet. As it is the object of pure consciousness and exists for it, the ego is not the self. Pure consciousness is the universal self when the object portion is rejected.
Yes. So the ego sense, listen very carefully. The ego in the end is not an evil and bad thing. We only get into trouble when I think the ego is me. But we see the ego rise and fall, thicken and thin. They say the most common fear in America is the fear of public speaking. I was at a meeting last night and a young man got up to speak and he was so nervous. Had a very difficult time. If you've had that experience, you can experience the ego thickening. You go on a date for the first time. Ego can be very thick. Other times when we're listening to music or doing dance or engaged in a project, deepest meditation, ego thins out. We see it thicken and thin. I get triggered. I am such a mess. I am so angry. I am so sad. I am so frightened. I am mad at so-and-so. How could they have done this to me? Ego gets very thick. You're watching a video. You're totally not self-conscious at all, meaning the small self. Ego thins. You see it thicken and thin. In the end, you'll be able to see an I am thought arise. And you can learn to not believe it. Now, listen very carefully. Psychology will frequently invite us to reframe ego. Oh, I got fired from my job. I'm a terrible person. I'm a lousy worker. They all hate me. The psychotherapist may say, well, maybe they were having financial trouble and they had to do layoffs. Did you get a good review on your last employee evaluation? No. So you're not a bad employee. You're a good employee. Other things were going on that may help going from a self-obsessed, low self-esteem ego to a better ego state. But yoga says it never fully solves the problem. How am I doing? Am I okay? What do they think of me? All of that is based on trying to secure something that's pratibimba, just a reflection of the mind. Yoga says, get out. Identify with the witnessing consciousness, which is neither low self-esteem or good self-esteem. No one there. No personal sense of self is real. Pratibimba. It's like the reflection in the mirror. Ch6, it's a shadow self. Mithya, it's illusory. Vaitatya, false, fake news. Next one.
So that's the end of chapter 5. Vishesha Boha Prakaranam, chapter 6. Negation of attributes. Chitva tyaktena hastena swayam natma vishishyate tatha shishtena sarvena yena vishishyate. The self itself is not qualified by an arm which has been cut off and thrown away. Similarly, it is not qualified by any of the remaining things by which it is thought to be qualified.
So now Shankara is engaging on what the ancient medieval scholars called the via negativa, the path or the road of negation. Why is this a value? Essentially, we know things by means of two strategies, two practices. The most common is compare and contrast. So, is this a table or is this a chair? It's a table. You know that's a table, this is a chair. A chair is a not table. A table is a not chair. Compare and contrast. Well, they both have four legs. Yes, but a table is low and flat and you put stuff on it. A chair is that you sit in. They're different. The table is a hard surface. The chair is a soft surface. Compare, contrast. That's how we know many, many things in the world. The problem with knowledge of the self is you cannot compare and contrast. Yesterday I was meat. Today I'm a little gray ball with wings. No. So how can I clearly know the self? And the other way in which we can know is the method of distillation. So if you watch the television and they're advertising the zero filter water filter, they'll say tap water has X amount of parts per million of stuff in it. A Brita water filter only takes out to something like 200 parts per million. But the zero water filter takes out everything. There's zero particles. Now take a glass of this. That's what pure water tastes like. So what do? We remove from our attention everything that is removable. We use a spiritual zero filter. So, what is myself? Myself is the eternal subject that which is always the knower. What is not self? Anything that is knowable. Does it have a beginning and an end? Does it occur in time and space? Does it have qualities or characteristics? Is it existed only in the waking dream or deep sleep state? Bottom line, is it an object of cognition? If that be it, it is anatman, not self. So I have an arm, cut the arm off, throw it away. The arm is a part of the body. It can be discarded. It is not self. Most importantly, every dimension of the body is knowable. When I was a child, I had a little body. I went through adolescence, the body changed again. Now I'm an adult, the body is changed again. Some of us are in our golden years. The body is changed again. But whatever changes have happened to the body, I am the knower of the body and all its changes. In the dream state and in the deep sleep state, the body is not even available for perception. So this is the practice that Shankara is inviting us to take up. Any thoughts on this? Next verse.
Tasmatyatena hastena tulyam sarvam visheshanam anatmatvena tasmagyo muktaha sarvai visheshaneha. Therefore, all the qualifications are similar to the arm cut off and thrown away, as they are all non-self. So the self is free from all qualifications.
Yes. So any qualities, characteristics, form, color, etc., they do not belong to me. They belong to the upadis, the equipment, the conditionings. And what's the truth about all of the conditionings? They have a beginning and an end. They are impermanent. They are objects of cognition. In the end, they're all just imagination. Only I is an eternal factor, never goes anywhere. I has no responsibilities. I has no duties. I has no consequences. I is beyond memory. I is beyond trauma. I is untouched. I just watches the movie go by. Don't worry. It's all going to be okay. Next verse.
विशेषणमिदं सर्वं सार्वलङ्करणं यथा अविद्याध्यायसतः सर्वं ज्ञात आत्मन्यसद्भवेत्. It is reasonable that, like ornaments, all these are qualifications of the self owing to superimposition through ignorance. When the self is known, they prove to be unreal.
So he now introduces us to this fundamental notion of adhyasa, superimposition. In the Vijnanamaya kosha, the subtle intellect, in subtle intellect attributes to the self the qualities of the not self. Starting with the body, I am male, I am female, I am young, I am old, I am ugly, I am beautiful, I am thin, I am fat, I am sick, I am healthy. Then it attributes to the self the qualities of the mind. I am fearful, I am at peace, I am angry, I am detached, I am happy, I am sad. When these are the mind's responses to conducive and non-conducive environments, that's all it is. I attribute to myself the qualities of the intellect. I am smart, I am stupid, I am successful, I am a failure. I am certain, I am doubting. It is like the person looking in the jar and attributing to the moon in the sky the qualities of the water in the jar. Oh, look, the moon is muddy. No, the water in the jar is muddy. Oh, look, the moon is green. No, the water is green. Oh, the moon is rippling. No, the water is moving. And I only get confused if I look at the Chandra Chaya, the reflection of the moon caught in the water. I look up. There's the moon. Only one. Still and shining. It is not the reflected moon in the water. So the phony self, the shadow self, the reflected self in the subtle intellect isn't real. But if I'm convinced that's who I am, suffer, 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 and I try to fix it, improve it, secure it, defend it, always doomed to failure. It is like my shadow goes through the gutter. Oh, my shadow's all dirty. Get a broom and sweep my shadow. not there. Any thoughts on this? Next one.
Gyate vatma sadagrahyo gyeya mutsrijaya kevalaha ahim ahamityapi yadgrahyam vyapetanya samam hitat. After rejecting the object portion, one should accept the self as the knower free from all qualifications. The ego, the object portion, is also like the part of the body cut off.
So reject my identification with anything knowable. I am not the body. I am not the energy. I am not the feelings. I am not the thoughts. I am not the ego thought. It is anatman, not self. Here Shankara uses one of his favorite terms, mithya. Mithya means illusion, or more literally, a lie. The ego is a lie. And it assumes a reality in the same way we see in our ordinary world. You listen to Fox News. 2020 election was stolen. Jewish space lasers changed Dominion votes from Trump to Biden. If you say it often enough, and if you believe in the people who are telling you this, oh, we've been robbed, fight, 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 fight. All this fear, all this anger, all this action based on mithya, a lie, an illusion. Just because it's an illusion doesn't mean it's not powerful. So also, my deeply rooted belief that I am the body, I am the personality, is just that. Based in ignorance. What am I ignorant of? My true nature. Everything for lifetimes has reinforced the lie. I am the body, I am the jiva. But it's mithya, fake news, not real, illusion. Don't believe me. Look and see. The mind very quiet. In the space between your thoughts. Introvert the attentive faculty. Who or what sees the thoughts and the space between the thoughts? Look behind your eyes. And again, you will never see yourself as an object. It is like trying to look at your eyes. It is like trying to taste your tongue. It is like trying to shine a flashlight on its own batteries. Yet you are not unknown. Are you? How do you know it? You do not see, hear, taste, touch, smell, emote, or think yourself. Yet you know you are. Different than knowledge of the body. Next verse.
Yavanya Yavansyadidamansho yaha sa sato nyo visheshanam visheshapraksho visheshaprakshayop yatra sid gyashchitra guryatha. The self of which the whole of the object portion is the qualification is different from it. Bereft of all qualifications, it has an independent existence like that of a man possessing a variegated cow.
Read that again in the English. I'm not sure I understood it.
The self of which the whole of the object portion is the qualification is different from it. Bereft of all qualifications, it has an independent existence like that of a man possessing a variegated cow.
Okay, so I own a cow. The cow has ears. The cow has 4 legs. The cow has a tail. The cow has an udder. The cow has all these parts. But whatever the parts are, I possess the cow. I know the cow. I am not a cow. So also, the body has its parts. The mind says good and bad. The intellect has its opinions. And the body, mind, intellect, I know, just like I know a cow. It is other than me. I know my nose. I know my toes. I know my eyes. I know my feelings. I know my thoughts. I know my memories. I know the tragedy of my past. I know the good experiences. I know all phenomena, just like the man who knows the cow, with its various parts. Just like the person is separate from the cow, I am separate from all phenomena. Any thoughts on this? Next verse.
idam ansho ahamityatra tyajyo natmeti panditeha aham brahmeti shishtansho bhutapurva gatir bhavet. As it is not the self, the object portion in the consciousness I should be renounced by the wise. As it was mixed with egoism previously, the remaining non-object portion is implied by the word I in the sentence, I am Brahman.
So here he is riffing on the great Mahavakya, Aham Brahmasmi. It does not mean my body is God. It does not mean my personality is godlike. Listen carefully. It doesn't mean my personality is now a super person. The body, finite, little, changeable, object of awareness, not iffy, not this. The feelings, oh boy, do they change. But I know them, not iffy, not this. Thoughts going by like the traffic outside, not this. The ego sense, I am Jim, I am old, I am forgetful, I am handsome. This, I am that. I am fill in the blank. Get out your psychic scissors and go snip, 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 snip. Let go of all the qualifiers. When the Shruti says, Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahman. What is Brahman? Prajnanam Brahma. Brahman is consciousness. Chidananda Rupam. Shivoham. Shivo. My form is bliss. I am Shiva. Auspiciousness itself. All right, one more.
Idam ansho, oh, I just did that one. Chapter 7.
Well, let's stop here then, before we start a new chapter.
Okay.
Let's stop a little bit. You have to leave at 1/4 of, you said?
Yes.
Well, it's almost 1/4 of. All right. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Sri Guru Pyo Namaha. Hari Om. Thank you all.